Hello students, welcome back, and today we will learn about matter in our surrounding. So the very first question, what exactly is matter? Well, matter is everything around us. From the chair you are sitting on, to the air you are breathing, to the food you eat, the pen you are using for writing, and the notebook, the laptop, mobile. All these things are made up of matter. Now, what are the two key properties of matter? So, the very first property is matter has mass, and the second property is it occupies some space. So, mass and volume are the key properties of matter. Now, long before scientists discovered about physical and chemical property of matter, before that Indian philosopher already had some kind of theory about matter. They said everything is made up of 5 elements, and these 5 elements are air, water, earth, fire, sky. We called it Panch Tattva. Similarly, Greek philosopher, they also classify everything into air, earth, fire and water. So, Indian philosopher and Greek philosopher kind of have same ideology about everything. Now, what's about modern scientists? So, they classified matter based on 2 properties, physical property and chemical property. Now, what are physical property of matter? So, if we talk about physical property of matter, they're like shape and state of matter. So, shape and state of matter are what? These are physical property of matter. Chemical nature means like their reaction, their composition, right? Now, another big question in front of us is matter one big continuous thing, or it is made up of tiny individual particles? So think about it, like matter is like this continuous thing, or some small particles are there inside matter. So let's figure it out by a mini experiment. Imagine dissolving salt in a water. So for this I am taking one container, and let's say 500 ml water is present in this container. Now I am adding 1 teaspoon of sugar in this water. Now if I add sugar in this water, what will happen? After some time, when I will stir it over the time, the sugar molecules will completely dissolve in the water. Sugar molecule will completely dissolve in the water. But what we can observe here, the water level which were in the beginning, let's say in the beginning the water level was 500 ml. After adding 1 teaspoon of sugar, the water level still remained 500 ml. Yes. How come? It should raise, right? So for example, let's say in a container 500 ml substance is present, and if I add more substance in the container, the water level should raise, but it's not rising. Alright. What it proves? It is because the salt particles are actually sneaking into the tiny space between the water particles. Getting my point? So this particular experiment proves what? The previous experiment proves that matter has particles, and these particles also have space between them. Now, how small are these particles? So let's do one more experiment to prove about the size of these particles. So to prove this, what we will do, we'll take a few crystals of potassium permanganate and dissolve it in a glass of water. Right? So for example, this is the first glass of water, and let's say it contains around 100 ml of water. And I'll put 10 ml of KMNO4 in this glass of water, which I already dissolve in another container. Now from this first container, I'll take 10 ml of, from 100 ml of water, I'll take 10 ml of water and dissolve it in another container which also contain 100 ml of water. I'll do this process 4 times. Means 4 container I am taking of 100 ml, and from the very first container I am taking 10 ml of water, adding it to another container, dissolve it, stir it, and from second container I'll take another 10 ml of water and repeat the process for third container and fourth container. What I will observe? So the color of the potassium permanganate is purple. So some purple color will appear in the first container. In the second container, third container, and even in the fourth container, we can observe color of potassium permanganate. So what it proves? A small, we can say, amount of potassium permanganate can change a big volume of water. Meaning these particles are really small. We can say they are, we cannot observe them by our naked eyes. Microscope needed to see these small particles, right? Now let's learn something more about these particles. So these particles are in continuous motion. They are not like they're staying at one place and not doing any activity. They are in continuous motion. How we can prove it? So let's say, for example, your mother or your father or your cook is cooking something in the kitchen and you're sitting in the living room. Then also you're able to smell the food, smell of the food in any room in the house, right? So how this is possible? Because these molecule of gases can spread throughout the house, right? Means they are in motion. The source of this particle may be at one place, one room of the house, but they can easily spread in the different room of house. Means they are in motion. Otherwise, how can they go from one room to another, right? Second experiment. So for example, let's say if you are burning a stick, that time also the smell spread throughout the room. Why? Due to the motion of these particles. So what it proves? Particles of matter are constantly moving and their movement increase with temperature. If we increase the temperature, their movement will increase. Next, if we talk about characteristics of matter, the very first characteristic of matter is particles have space between them. How we can prove it? By dissolving sugar or salt in water. It shows what? Particles can completely fit in the water. And so for example, you dissolve it, particles will completely fit in the water, and this experiment proved that particles have space between them. That we have learned in the very first slide. Second property of matter, or we can say second property of particles, are particle attract each other. Meaning, let's say in solid, let's say these are the particles of solid. So they are present at one place because they have some kind of attractive force between them. They have some kind of attractive force between them. That's why they are there. And this attractive force is more in solid compared to liquid compared to gas. So it's maximum in solid and least in gas. Next. Alright, let's revise everything. So the very first concept is everything around us is made up of matter. And matter is made up of tiny particles, right? These particles have space between them and they are in constant motion. They are continuously moving. The movement is more in solid and less in gas. And they are attracted towards each other. Each other means two particles. So more particles are attracted towards each other in a matter. So that's all about today's class. Thank you so much for joining it.